Most people don't take on the level of risk that's really required to be able to actualize yourself. Most people are
Oh,
comfortable, and
yeah.
even the people who have achieved a lot, they
Mhm.
are not willing to go the extra mile and really find out the greatness that's within them. And it's so
Yeah.
much greater than you could ever imagine. That's the beauty about it, is the greatness that's within each and every one of us. And I'm standing here as someone who's been through mental health treatment again 10 years ago. I could never have predicted who I've become. I had to keep launching off the bridge, keep taking risks, doing things that didn't make sense to most of the people, including my
Okay, welcome to the live broadcast of Most People Don't, But You Do. We are thrilled to be able to welcome to this stage and to this conversation live Jaclyn Orent. She is the co founder and CEO of the Cultural Catalyst Network. Joining us live from Boulder, Colorado. Glad that you're taking time to chat with us and all of our listeners and followers. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're going to get to learn what makes you special, what makes you different. And then we need to always think about our listeners. We've been very blessed just recently. Oh, I didn't even share this with you. If you say yes to my LinkedIn request, Jaclyn,
Yes.
you'll see that we are just listed as the top 100 business leadership podcast in the world.
Incredible.
Really fun. And I'm glad that we are streaming this live through a couple of our social media channels and yours so that your followers will be able to get to hear how
Mhm.
cool and how unique you are. Jaclyn, thank you so much for joining.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Bart.
Are you ready for the first question?
I am ready for the first question, which is, it sounds like you have a lot of people that are probably wanting to be on your show. What is it that made you say yes to having me on the show for your audience today?
Because you and your team did what most people don't do. Are you ready? Name of the company. You and your team will give a shout out to, I don't have her name in front of me. There's several people that I got notes from. Who's part of your team that was helping?
Courtney Bissard.
Courtney, yes. Let's give a
Yes.
shout out to Courtney and also to you, of course, Jaclyn, as being
Yes.
co founder and CEO. But you were doing what most people don't. You were interesting. What your summary was different, unique, valuable. I found it valuable. It made me want to learn more. It wasn't, from my perspective, it was human. It
For sure.
wasn't what you hear from everyone else. I'll just share with you, Jaclyn, because you asked me that question. Once we get this promoted, once it goes live, as soon as we're done 30, 35 minutes, we will get people reaching out to our company by saying, I heard Jaclyn, the CEO and co founder of Cultural Catalyst, and it reminded me of the conversation about change and networking, why you need to not look at the org chart. We have a person also that would be perfect for your show. That's how people they lead in. So it looks like they listen. It looks like they're making it personalized, but they're really not. They're using different types of technology. God bless them. I use the technology too, but you approach it in a very unique human way, which I appreciate you and your team. Secondly, we also ask for information prior. Fill out this little form. You want to be on our show? Fill out this little form. Tell us more about you. Tell us what we can talk about. I have my notes here and here, and I'm ready to talk about that. A lot of people just want to be on the show and they don't want to do the homework. But there's multiple things. To answer your last question that you started, I can't remember if you asked it before we started. And this is about you, not about me. So I'm going to be quiet in a second.
Totally.
But you asked, what do I hope to be able to get out of this? I want to have I want to be a new friend. I want you to be my new friend and vice versa. I want our listeners to learn something new, a different perspective, not to sell anything, not to buy anything, not to promote anything, but we want to promote you as a human being first. Then we want people to say, I really like Jaclyn. Let me find out more about how I can get part of the social identity group. How can I use her tools? How can I follow her? That's the goal. You ready for all that?
Let's do it.
What do you think you do that most people don't do
Well,
besides be persistent for a podcast?
I just want to give a really brief overview of what we're doing and why, so that it can frame the conversation. Cultural Catalyst is the first infrastructure built for societal level change, connecting powerful leaders across organizations to create cultural change none of them could create alone.
So, what does that mean?
I want to start there specifically. One of the things that we do when we reach out to people like you is we actually say, hey, cultural catalysts, the time is now. One of the things that I've noticed is that when I say that I'm a cultural catalyst or that I am the co-founder and CEO of an organization called Cultural Catalyst, people raise their hand and be like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know that was a possibility until right now. Am I actually?" And that's actually been designed that way on purpose. And whoa,
I gotcha.
interesting. It's been designed that way on purpose because what we're actually doing in the Cultural Catalyst Network is taking 60 years of research from someone by the name of Richard E. Boyatzis, who spent the last 60 years researching how does change actually happen from the individual to the organization, all the way up to the community, the country, and the global processes. The reason why this is an important conversation right now is because the systems that have gotten us here post World War II and the current world order as it is are literally in the process of breaking down right now. I had an opportunity to get to watch Diary of a CEO last night with a historian and a Pulitzer Prize winner talk to Stephen about the things that are happening right now and the similarities in history in terms of the rise and fall of nations. I'm also a student of Ray Dalio, who studies the same thing with the rise and fall of nations and when countries go broke. What was so fascinating for me over my journey, specifically of wanting to stand out, was no longer just talking to the mind and what results we can provide people, but really creating a dream that's unique to each and every one of us, because we all, those of us who identify as cultural catalysts, each have our own desired cultural contribution we want to make. That actually creates a collective shared dream, and that collective shared dream is actually how a new culture gets created. What we're doing is based off a tremendous amount of science, and what we're doing is creating the infrastructure for what I say a new world order.
What does that change? What is that change going to be?
It really depends on who the members are specifically. For my contribution as the systems architect behind the network is really creating a system of enlightened leadership that creates peace on earth and leaves a legacy of love specifically. The reason being that's mine to speak to is in the last decade, as I've gone through the transformational process that started with a 36-day water fast after leaving corporate America and being like, who am I? What do I want? Why am I here? Experiencing places of reality that I didn't know existed, and then coming back into the world and spending the last decade integrating what I learned. One of those things that I learned was the difference between power and force as a leader specifically. I got given Dr. David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force, The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior, after the fast from a number of clinicians that were helping support me get back on my feet. It really changed the way that I viewed productivity and the way that I viewed leadership. What I've spent the last 7 years from being given that book was developing leaders to lead from power and not force. What that tangibly means is that who they are and the results that they produce either give to life or they take from life. That even goes down into the neuroscience of how change happens and how change either stops or it continues. What I'm actually doing is taking consciousness research, combining it with change research, and building a scalable system that allows for us to actually create the new culture that we want, whether that be intentional communities that are founded off of emotional freedom technique, which is also a research-based technique, or changing our relationship with money. And realizing that we can create systems that are actually whole serving and not self serving, creating sustainable infrastructure that supports the whole person and not just part of the person. New education systems are going to be needed. We are in a time in history where we can either react to what's happening, or we could actually take a step back and be like, hold on, what's actually happening right now has happened before.
Well, I'm going to ask a couple of questions just to make sure I understand it. I'm just trying to think from our perspective of our listeners because we have everything from founders and CEOs to individuals that own restaurants. It is people
Yeah.
that do good things for the right reasons. As I'm understanding you, that there are tools and techniques that can help leaders become better leaders by
Mhm.
using power, not force. Is that
Yeah.
correct so far? That these are tools, are these tools that you and the team can teach individuals on how to become, and I'm just going to throw out a couple of words, more of an empathetic leader, more of a
Yes.
sympathetic, more of a kind and gracious leading by the pull of leadership instead of the push of
Yes.
force. Am I getting it right so
So
far?
that is part of it. Part of the
Okay.
network is dependent on what level of leadership you are. When we look at Maxwell's scale of leadership, we
Mhm.
have different leaders at different levels of development, and they need different things. For some people, they need to learn how to produce results. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, it keeps. popping off. I don't know. For other people, they're focusing on developing people to produce results. Then
Mhm.
at the highest level of leadership, they are on focused on legacy. We have members who are restaurant owners as well who are wanting to role model what abundance looks like, what overflow looks like, to model a new type of leadership in that specific realm. We have
Okay.
another leader in our organization who's has a 1,000-year business plan, for goodness sake. They are very level 5 leaders. They are focused on legacy. They're wanting to create systems and structures that are based off unconditional love through providing the
Mm.
environment and the tools for people to actualize their full potential. Then we also have another founder specifically who would be more in the level 4. So she's developing people specifically, developing leaders and helping them find coherence, nervous system coherence within so that they can achieve better results through their team. She's working with teams right now in
Yeah.
organizations.
So a wide variety of tools based on your expertise, based on the people that you're working with, and based on the people that are members of the social identity group, correct? Am I
Yes.
getting it?
And the social identity group is cultural catalysts. And
All right,
yes,
it's a network, Cultural Catalyst Network. The
yes.
network, it's a grouping of, I want to read a couple of things, designed for seven-figure and above founders who no longer need more information or strategy. They're missing resonant peers with a shared vision of being a cultural catalyst. The unnamed ache of existing between worlds where they're too conscious for traditional bottle business networks, but too business focused for purely spiritual communities. All right, can we use me as an example?
Go ahead.
Not to role play, but so I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
We've had our company for 7 years. I was with Ritz Carlton for 16 years, been in hospitality. Let's see, I had a heart attack right before the pandemic. The pandemic changed a lot of things with perspective of what was important and what's not important. Then I decided that more people needed to hear good messages, kindness and gratitude and empathy. I remember that a bunch of my friends were losing their jobs during the pandemic, Jaclyn, and they were being told that they were redundant. The crazy thing is, I didn't know what that word meant for a human being. So I actually had to look it up. What does it mean if an employee is redundant? That if
Mhm.
a person, my friend, is redundant, what does it mean? I did a virtual presentation called You're Remarkable, Not Redundant, because I wanted to make people feel better. This is what we've been doing. It's my wife and I for 7 years going around the world, sharing good thoughts on kindness, being
Yeah.
flexible, doing what most people don't do. So that's my little
Great.
scenario and podcast top 2 to 5% globally. Very cool.
Amazing.
What would you ask me, or what would you begin to identify as how could I benefit? Or what would you ask me to see, hey, look, would I be a good fit for Cultural Catalyst Network?
Step one, do you identify as a cultural catalyst?
I don't know what that means.
That's fair. When you had the email that reached out to you being like cultural catalyst, the time is now, what came up for you as you saw that?
Oh, just that you are trying to help individuals that are entrepreneurs, and a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs, and that you are trying to help them identify what's next and identify their inspiration and purpose. Those things, those are words that I use. Those are words that resonated with me. I don't know what a cultural catalyst is per se, but
Yeah.
what resonated was okay, this is interesting. And let me learn a little bit more and let me have our listeners learn a little
Mhm.
bit more. That's the why. I guess that's the why we're having the conversation. Imagine I'm a potential Cultural Catalyst Network member. What would you ask me?
What would be your desired contribution to the culture? What is
Yeah.
the legacy that you want to leave behind in terms of the culture that you create?
Because it's a small company, it's my wife and I. The culture that I can create is by, and you'll hear this expression from different people. And one of my business coaches and dear friend David Meltzer will say, leaving the room better than
Mhm.
how it was when you arrived.
So,
My goal is to make people feel better, get better, and do better. The operative word in the last one is do better. Take action where they might be afraid, take action where they might
mm,
be scared, they might be nervous, it might not be wired that they should be taking action, but
yep.
then to encourage and enliven people to take action because I believe that they can find there's answers out there right now, I believe, to find happiness and find content and find
Yeah.
peace. A lot of people have written the books and the stories and the podcasts and the interviews and the keynote presentations. Now we know that we just need to we need to apply those things because I can live better. I'm doing the podcast actually from a gym. I was there yesterday and I'm here today. I can do it anywhere, but I want to make sure that I'm feeling better, getting better, and doing better. And when I woke up this morning after going to the gym yesterday, I felt better. That's what I want to continue to do. Help people feel better, get better, and do better. This last statement that might help spark some additional conversation. I share this that it's easy to be, but better to become. Right? I can just be. I can remain who I am, unfit perhaps or unknowledgeable, but in order for me to become, I need to take action because I want to become knowledgeable. I want to become fit. That's kind of I'm hoping to that message that speak with or interact with
Yeah.
through kindness. Does that fit into the mold? You asked me what my culture, what do I envision for the culture? Does that align with what you and your network members are
Yeah, so
interacting with
I
and
just wanna
believe in?
offer a reflection and tell you my thought
Yeah.
process behind what I'm hearing from you, is that I hear that you are wanting to leave behind a culture of empowerment of some way. That's something that's focused on self-actualization and becoming all that you can be. From
Mhm.
my perspective, empowerment is giving to life. It is literally from power. In that way, you most definitely fit the first barometer of what it is required to be a cultural catalyst. Because one of the things that's really important as cultural catalysts is that we're creating a positive, life-giving culture. We're not creating culture that's life taking and from force. That's the first thing that I'm a yes to in regards to what you're saying, that you're leaving behind a culture of empowerment, which is exactly what we need. People who are taking responsibility for who they are and who they want to become and actually doing something about it. So
Mhm.
that's the first thing. And then my other instinct would be to find out why that's important to you.
It is important to me because, and many of my listeners have already heard this, but I'll abbreviate it for you and for your listeners. When I was 12 years old, I had an out of body experience during surgery. I heard the doctors and the nurses speaking. I heard the surgical instruments clinking and clanging. And I don't know if it lasted for 10 seconds or 10 minutes. All I knew is that it felt like my body was on the operating table and my conscious was underneath. And I could not move. I couldn't talk. I couldn't tell them that I'm still here. That happened to me at 12 years old. As a result, the nose surgery was botched. They did not properly fix my deviated septum. And when I recovered, I said, I would rather be anywhere except in an operating room, anywhere but in an operating room, because it scared the heck out of me. I became fearful of doctors and nurses. I became fearful of dying. I became fearful of losing control. I became fearful of falling asleep to the point where going home after surgery, by the time I left for college, I'd have to say to my family, my parents, every single night, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. If they told me, yes, I knew I could fall asleep because they weren't going to lie to me and I was not going to die in my sleep. That bad. As a result, then, of this fear, I began having panic attacks about losing control, panic attacks in the back of a grocery store and I can't escape, panic attacks, riding in the back of a bus, panic attacks. I believe why I am doing this now, it's because I didn't have help back then. It was back in the 1800s when this happened to me. And my parents, I'm just kidding, my parents did not know what to do.
Mhm.
They didn't take me to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They didn't take me to a doctor. They just didn't know what to do. I survived by worrying that I was going to die every single day. I worried about having panic attacks every single day, and no one helped me. I believe now my goal is to be able to be the help that maybe people don't get.
Mhm.
I can talk about anxiety attacks and I can talk about depression because I want people to know that you can feel better, get better, and do better, that there are resources out there. I want them to hear this story that no one helped me, but it doesn't need to be the same way, Jaclyn. It doesn't need to
Yeah.
be the same way for anybody. In fact, I'll share this last story with you. When I present now, I remind people that they're doing great. Just because people need to hear it, you're doing great. There's a story that goes along with that, but I share at the end, I share my mobile number and I share my email address. It's 301-312-1600. That's my mobile number. If you need to hear it again tomorrow, Jaclyn or anyone, text me and I will tell you again tomorrow that you're doing great. I've probably shared my number now with hundreds of thousands of people. The most interesting thing happens on Thanksgiving morning. I will get a note. I'll get a text, not knowing who it's from. And the message will say, will you tell me one more time? New Year's Day, I'll get a note. Will you remind me, Bart, on Christmas Day, Christmas morning, I could really use another, you're doing great. My response always, I take the time to respond. You're doing great. You're doing great. You're doing great. Because I'm trying to be there to help people that need to hear good things. It doesn't matter who it's from. I don't know who it's from. I don't recognize the number. That's not important. But that's why I do it, because no one helped me as a kid. And I want to make sure that I am helping people now as an adult.
Mhm.
Long answer, but does that resonate?
What my takeaway is that you turned a traumatic experience and you transmuted it into some level of acceptance. You did the work that was required to accept the fear of dying, to accept what might happen. Ultimately, it sounds like you've had to release control to some extent to actually come into a place of courage. From that place of courage, you are now the one who is helping people and helping them accept what it is that they don't want to accept. And in doing so, you are helping empower others to come into a place of power.
Yep. Thank you for summarizing it. Goodness. The individuals that are part of your group, for different reasons, they are believing in changing the culture, enhancing it, improving it, whether it's for a big company or a small company.
Mhm.
I believe it's also making cultural change from within. If it's an individual that is not trying to change their 500-person company, but
Yeah.
they want to improve themselves, could they also be a part of your network, part of your group?
No, most definitely. And I want to acknowledge that there's two different things that need to be acknowledged here. So, first of all, we have a scalable infrastructure that is in the process of being rebranded under Cultural Catalyst right now that is research backed. So, it's EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique on demand, that can be accessible to anyone from anywhere. And part of the journey that I went on with leaving corporate America and then fasting on water and then actually going through traditional mental health support for a period of time afterwards was that I wanted to make sure that mental health care services were absolutely accessible to anyone from anywhere without it just being limited to the people with money. And so we've partnered with Sonia Sophia, a 30-year master EFT practitioner, teacher, trainer, who has actually already built this and it works. And we're in the process of rebranding it and providing it to the masses for the people who need that kind of support because we, yes, need to address the people who are already okay. And we also need to address the people who are not okay. And I've been that person. I'm no longer that person, but it is important to me to make sure that it doesn't matter what you have or don't have access to. If you have internet, we've got you. We've got that part of it. And the other side of what I've actually gotten to see is for the leaders who've actually already achieved success by traditional standards, you could say, or non-traditional standards, because some people in our community are definitely non-traditional. They too need peers, actually. What the research actually tells us about how change happens is that it happens through resonance, which is made up of three things. This isn't just woo, this is actually research from intentional change theory. That's the Boyatz's work. It's made up of three things: shared vision,
Mhm.
shared compassion, which includes competence, and shared energy. What I've gotten to see with people who've basically become the mentors like yourself is that they themselves don't really have peers. They're either helping everyone around them or they have contractors and employees everywhere. And that's actually a structural problem with
Mhm.
us creating a new culture because what happens right now is the leaders who are at the top of organizations, the energy actually can't move to the community and to the global and the country processes level because the existing networks that exist are pretty much just at the organizational level. When you look at EO, YPO, this, they all are
Mhm.
for organizational change. And that's actually a structural problem. We actually are a collective nervous system. And just like an aspen grove, we have the trees that need help in the aspen grove. We have the mature trees, we have the teenager trees, and these are all different levels of leadership. The people who have achieved success and are wanting to actually do something about what's happening and have the capacity to, it's actually neurobiologically essential for them to have peers at their same level of competence. Part of what we're doing in the network is creating infrastructure that can address people anywhere on their leadership journey, as long as you actually want to do something good about what's happening
Mhm.
from a place of
Understood.
wholeness
Yeah,
and not from a
understood.
place of it just being about me. And I do want to acknowledge that there are time and place for it to just be about you. I've been in that position when you do need to take care of yourself. And we got to start with the people who can actually do it.
All right, agreed, agreed. All right, my takeaways. building network of individuals that are like-minded, and I'll say heart-minded individuals, people that are trying to do good things, and a lot of it might be change from within, but the change from within is allowing them to be able to have more cultural change within the organization that they are working with or for. Is that pretty much it? Correct?
That
Far.
that
Just that's I know that's a small part, but I'm also trying to be mindful of time. That's a small part. So right now, Jaclyn, is the Cultural Catalyst Network the organization? Is it large? Is it small? Can you give us an idea? Do you need to be in Colorado to be part of it? Is there a fee associated with it? What can you share, or where can they go to find more details?
Where you can go to find more details is culturalcatalyst.network.com. And there's another one that's based in Europe right now. We're in the process of rebranding to make sure that people find us directly. We're based in the United States. However, we believe, and what history and the historians are telling us, is that there's cultural change at a societal level happening everywhere. Yes, cultural catalysts change culture and organization, but what we're actually speaking to is leaders who want to use their organization, their infrastructure, their authority, their influence to actually change society at large through right relationships with people who want to do that as well. Right now, we're in the process of building out the infrastructure. We've applied the research, we're getting funding literally right now.
Hmm.
We've already been validated for, we're starting right now with people who've already are in people development specifically and who are focused on legacy work so that we can pair those people together to start resource sharing, to start problem solving, to start
Hmm.
collaborating. Ultimately, what it does in the nervous system is it provides fuel. One of the biggest challenges that we have moving forward is the inherent challenge of creating a new system because the existing system is designed to protect itself. What we need to do and what we're doing is providing the correct relationships and environments for people to come together, to have activate each other, to support each other, to resource share with each other, and ultimately start decimating the new culture that we need to create. We're in the early stages right now. We're starting with level 4 and level 5 leaders, and there is a membership process and an application required to be able to do that. Many of these events are in person, literally councils. That's how we are
Hmm.
starting. We are bringing back councils. And really, this is something that we've been doing for thousands of years, bringing together the leaders of the different tribes and having them solve problems together. And no one's doing that right now at this level. So that's who
Yeah.
we're starting with.
It's so fun, Jaclyn, because there are groups like several that you had mentioned that are getting together and they're talking about profitability. They're talking about retention and they're talking about efficiencies. But maybe they're not talking about the things that you're talking about, right? The resonance in the spiritual community and giving back and helping individuals and devotion to doing better. And I'm just looking at some of the other words, the alignments, helping with the identity and truly giving back. And then that's my sense that this is an organization that is not woo woo, it's based on science, but you are gathering people together to create in-person events and then also the ability of connection, probably educational, probably virtual, to be able to tackle different things that you and the group have identified as being challenges. If nasty, we don't want that in business. You're getting like-minded people. That's just one silly example to say, how can we get together to be able to create a better work environment, a better life, and a better world for everyone? Did I get it
Correct.
right?
And you're right. Part of it, this is we are speaking to cultural contribution. When you look at this
Mm,
basic human needs, we have the foundational needs of certainty, uncertainty, love and connection, and significance. And the higher level needs are growth and contribution. When you've achieved what you've set out to achieve to some extent, you actually do have a natural desire to give back. You
yeah.
actually have the ability to do it, you have the resources to do it. Again, we're not leaving behind the people who want to do that too, but that's not
Hmm.
where they're at right now. We can actually start with the people who have that desire and actually create a new world through the people who actually want to do it.
And it's so interesting. And I did not know until I love the press or the information that you shared or you and your team, but to understand it through a conversation is just very powerful. You are putting together like-minded, heart-minded people to be able to create cultural change, whether it's within an organization or outside of an organization or within you, within the people that you interact with. You're looking to have people, I'm going to summarize me, feel better, get better, and do better, which is so cool. Jaclyn, last question for you. We
Yes.
started talking a little bit about you, but I want you to fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Most people don't blank. No right or wrong. Most people don't blank. What comes to mind?
Most people don't, what is the word that I've actually been seeing? And I'll give a specific example. Most people don't take on the level of risk that's really required to be able to actualize yourself. Most people are
Wow.
comfortable, and
Yeah.
even the people who have achieved a lot, they
Mhm.
are not willing to go the extra mile and really find out the greatness that's within them, and it's so
Yeah.
much greater than you could ever imagine. That's the beauty about it, is the greatness that's within each and every one of us, and I'm standing here as someone who's been through mental health treatment, 10 years ago,
Mhm.
embodying greatness in my unique way. I could never have predicted who I've become. At
Yeah.
the same time, I've gotten to see now very clearly after a decade with what we're building right now that I had to do that I had to keep launching off the bridge, keep taking risks, doing things that didn't make sense to most of the people, including my family around me, to become who I needed to be, to do here what I'm here to do.
Most people don't take risks to be able to challenge themselves to become better. Most people take the easy way out to think it always has to be this way. Most people don't, Jaclyn, go on a 36-day water fast to be able to look inside to see what can I really learn about myself and how can I become better. What a great way to be able to end this. Jaclyn Orent, she is the co-founder, CEO of Cultural Catalyst Network. For more information, follow her on LinkedIn, Jaclyn, Jaclyn, Orent, Orent, out of Boulder, Colorado. And remind us one more time of the website, please, Jaclyn.
Culturalcatalyst.network.com. We are not the one based in the EU. We are based in Boulder, Colorado.
Keep on doing great things. And thank you for sharing your message. Thank you for caring about enabling culture to improve and culture to get better. For all of your listeners and followers, I would just say, hey, connect with me as well. Mostpeopledon't.com. Bart Berkey, I'm the only Bart Berkey in the world. And together we will all continue to do great things. Jaclyn, thank you so much. What a pleasure. And we will stay connected, and let's continue to celebrate you and what you're doing and what all of your members of the social identity group are doing too. Sound like a
Amazing.
plan? All right. Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us, Jaclyn.
Thank you for having me.